Hello, I'm Alex Lima, and this is my wife, Lydia Lima. I'm here today to share my story about the event that we had about 3.5 years ago when I had to go into a root aorta replacement surgery. Um, I'm gonna I didn't have a emergency event. Everything that happens to me was somewhat planned. I accidentally found out about the condition, and today what I'm planning to do is to go through all the you know all the events and the journey that we had since the time that we found out the condition until pretty much now. Um, it's been a long journey until now, and I'm 3.5 years, roughly 3.5 years past my surgery, and as you can see, and I'm doing probably better than ever. So let's. I'm just gonna give you a quick overview what the history of my life and with Lydia and how we got here. So since the beginning, I was a very health person. Throughout my young ages and my youth, I was a basketball player since pretty much I was born when my dad gave me a basketball still in the hospital. So from that point on, very healthy, very athletic, play high school, college, professional before and after. And I kind of finished my career towards the 25, 26 roughly. And after that, start focus on my career. I work on IT. And so I'm pretty much in front of the computer like this every single day for the last at least 20, 25 years. So in my 30s, I pretty much got, away from exercising. And it was a time of my life that I had to really focus on the career. And with that, I, gained a lot of weight, became an overweight, nearly 300 pounds. And when I turned 40, that's when Lydia came to me and said, well, okay, now you're turning 40, you're getting to an age that we have to start, checking every once in a while, every year at least, go to the doctor. And at that time, I was really, overweight. So I went to our physician, and our physician said, let's do blood tests, let's do this, let's do that, just to get, check up. And I came back a week later, and she told me that I had a very high blood pressure and a condition that it was deteriorating since the last time I went to see her, and things were not going well, and I had to change my lifestyle. So to change my lifestyle, she said, in a nice way, if you don't take care of yourself, my daughter was
About
5 or 6 at that
about,
time.
about six.
About 6. She said, if you continue that route, college for her, probably you might not see it. So that was a big wake up call. So right there, Lydia went out and bought me a bike, which I don't like to run. I don't like to do that kind of stuff. So bike is something that I like to do it. So I started riding. I remember when she bought it, was an $800 bike, and I almost killed her.
Yeah.
I say, what are you doing? $800 bike. Well, that was the best investment she ever made, because right after that, I lost about 30 pounds. A year later, I went to see the doctor again, and I said, well, I'm feeling a lot better. I lost about 30 pounds. I feel a lot better, but I'm still feeling tired all the time. Right? I don't know what it is. I'm just tired all the time. And she said, well, let's do an echo. Well, as you can probably imagine, that was the savior. So we went to get an echo, and it came back with an anomaly. And she said, Alex, I have to send you to a cardiologist because it came back your aorta, which, I didn't have any clue what aorta was at that time. So aorta is a little larger than what it's supposed to be. It measures 4.6. Typically, I don't know, I think it's 3.5 or so, or even 2.5,
2.5,
something like that. Right? So it's a little long, but you were a big guy. I'm 6'7", 6'8". I was, like I said, I was like 250, 260 pounds at that time. So she said, don't worry about it. It might not be a big deal, but we need to kind of investigate. So I'm going to refer you to a cardiologist. And by the way, at that time, we live in Texas now, but at that time we were living in Canada, which has a different medical system than we have here in the U.S. When you refer to a specialist like a cardiologist in Canada, the system grade the urgency, and she put me like on a scale from 1 to 10. I think it was something like a 6 or 7. And so it actually took me 3 months to go see the cardiologist. And those were the hardest 3 months ever, because, during that time, I went to the freaking Google, and the Google was saying, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. So my recommendation is don't ever go to Google whenever something comes up to you, because I freak out because of that 3 months. And I remember going to that 3 months, and I was really depressed. I was getting back in shape. I was getting back active. And then I got hit with that. The first thing they should say, you got to stop. You got to stop any physical activity. You cannot do anything until we kind of figured out what it is. So then 3 months came in. I went to the cardiology. We did an MRI. And he said, Alex, it's 4.6. Typically with 5, if it's, because I'm told they were suspecting that I had Marfan disease. So they went through the process of, check that and rule that out. So I did vision, I did, different tests. I did they did genetic tests with me. Everything came negative. So it was not Marfan, at least from the initial, what? And they test our kids, they test,
make sure it's not genetic.
They ask us to, ask if there was any family history with it. We didn't. So they kind of rule out for now at that time if this was a Marfan or not. So doctors say, well, typically 5 with Marfan, we like to have surgery. You are 4.6, probably not Marfan. So maybe it's 5.5, and it says so. So we're gonna kind of monitor this, Alex. This is back in 2012, I think, 11, 12. So we're gonna monitor this every year and see how it goes. If it grows, if it gets to the threshold that we feel that is safer for you to have surgery, we'll address that. But come back in 6 months, we do another MRI, and we'll see where we go. So we went back 6 months, it was normal. So then, it was normal based on the previous test, it was the same. So he cleared me to go ahead and continue my physical activity. And throughout this process, I told Lydia, I said, well, I'm biking, and we had a lot of friends in triathlon at that time. I said, well, if he ever clears me to go back to a physical activity again, I'm gonna go ahead and do the hardest thing I ever thought it could be possible to be doing. So I decided to race an Ironman, and I start training for that. So I was basically training about an hour and a half a day, and I got to a point that in 2017 I finished 2 Ironmans. So throughout these years, every time I went back to the doctor every year, he always said, Alex, it grew a little bit, but it's in the margin of error of the measurement. It's nothing to concern. There's nothing. In Canada, they don't tend to give you all the information unless you kind of push very hard. So he never actually told me the numbers. Of course, when you are in this situation, I think it's a human nature. You're going to the doctor and you want to hear the good news, right? So when you hear the good news, you don't want to know more details. Everything is good. Everything is good. Let's go. That's kind of how I felt at that time. So years went by. Every year was the same thing. And then I think on my third year or so, I started complaining about a little pain right here. It was a little pain. And he came to me and said, listen, it's in your mind. This condition that you have, there's no pain, there's nothing. So there's nothing there. But he never actually went to check. And that's a story behind that, and I will tell you in a minute. So he never went to check anything. I felt kind of sick. And so throughout this time, because I was with high blood pressure, with high cholesterol, I had the aorta, I ended up in the ER 3 times. 2 times in Canada. One I was at home. One I was at work. She picked me up. We rushed to their hospital. And I'm thinking I'm having a heart attack. And then I couldn't breathe. My hands were numb. And you know, I remember even driving to the hospital because we were on a rush. You know, my feet in the my foot in the brake was actually numb as well. So thinking that I'm having an attack, never had it, anything. Went to the ER. They did all the tests. Came back. Every time came back negative. Until the third one, which I was in San Francisco on a conference for work, and I had another event like this. I went to the hospital in San Francisco right away. The people from the hotel took me to the hospital, and in the hospital they say, Alex, you don't have anything in your heart. You're not having a heart attack. You're not having everything's fine. Yes, you have the aorta issue, but that's nothing to do with it. I think what you're having is a heart attack, an anxiety. If this is the third time, it's happened more frequently, and it's going to continue to happen. So you have to address that when you go back home. You know, go see your doctor to address this, to prevent you to get into this. So I did. I started with a medication to prevent that, and ever since I never had again. So you know, I don't have a heart problem in terms of heart attack. So good. So we went by, everything was fine. Every year he said he grew a little bit, and then we had to move for professional reasons. We had to move from Canada to Texas, and that's where we are right now. And when we move, I said, well, now I have to find a doctor here in Texas to continue monitoring me. And I was trying to ride a bike with my friends here, and I couldn't keep up with them. And typically, you know, Texas is very flat, you know, and where we were in Canada, it was very hilly. So I was used to go hard, and I couldn't keep up with people here on the flats. That was a red flag. And then we said, let's stop this until we see a doctor, you know, so he can clear me. So, you know, found out a doctor after 3 or 4 months. Then we moved in, and I went to the doctor and explained everything. He said, Alex, I know you've been doing this, but let's do a full check. And then we did a full check. A week later, I went back. Well, Alex, your aorta right now is actually 5.8. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
5.8. How is a 4.6 growing just, you know, in an error margin, and now all of a sudden it's 5.8. As soon as they said that, I said, oh gosh, I'm going to have surgery. And then he said, we also need to check for your arteries, because it seems like that's something there. So we're going to go ahead and do another one, but it's specific for your arteries. And then you come back another week. So did another CT scan, came back in the following week, and he said, well, what we thought was actually correct. You have 100% blockage in one artery. All that little pain that I had all the time, that was probably the blockage. And he said, well, you already knew you're probably going to have a surgery for now you have to have 2 surgeries, and we're gonna do it at the same time. And you know,
it was pretty hard when you heard that.
so
So
it was hard because I knew it was not a death sentence, but it did feel like one. So, anyways, uh, so he said he was good. He was good. He said, yes, don't worry, but we're gonna fix it. We'll fix it. There is a way to fix it. It's not an easy one, but we're gonna fix it. So uh, we came back home, and he said, well, this was like a midweek, like a Wednesday, right? So he said, okay, because you have this aorta situation, and by the way, my aorta situation was in the root aorta. So I'm gonna have to have the surgery with a specialist in that area. So I'm gonna call him tomorrow. I'm gonna see his schedule, his arrangement, and I call you. Maybe later this week or next week. And I said, okay, oh gosh. Well, now, everything is going in my mind. It's crazy. Everything, uh, uh, he said, I remember he saying that uh, there is a 98 to 99% chance that everything is going to go well. It's a very well known procedure. It's a difficult one, but the technique is well established, and we have a very good surgeon that specializes in this area in the hospital. So everything is going to go well, but it's interesting that in my mind, instead of focus on the 98,
yeah, he focused on the 2%.
I could only think about the 2, right? And instead of think about the 98, but the 98 was actually the chances were that things were going to go really well, and we did. And but at that time, right, it's easy to say now, but at that time, when you're going through that, I'm sure if someone that's watching right now and going through this, rest assured that everything that I thought, of course, when you're going through, you think that way, but if I knew at that time what I know today, I think I would be a lot more calm. Um, so we went through that. Weekend went by, Monday went by, and he never called. And I'm thinking, like, I have 100% blockage artery. I can have a heart attack at any time. I have a 5.8 aorta aneurysm. I can have a dissections at any time. So, I'm not very educated on that, but again, at that time you think of the worst, right? So Tuesday came by, afternoon, it was about 3 o'clock, and he didn't call. I went crazy in terms of anxiety, and I start feeling pain everywhere, and then we said, let's go to the ER because I don't feel comfortable staying here. So we went to the local ER, in our place here. The hospitals are at least 20 minutes away, and there's another one about in Houston downtown medical center, which is about an hour away. So we went to the local ER, and which is part of the same hospital, Houston Methodist. So the local ER got in right away. They check everything. They said, there's nothing going on in your heart. It looks like it is a panic attack again. However, because of all this condition that you have, and he couldn't see in my file, and I told him as well, and I gave him my doctor's number. He called my doctor, and
Well, it was
then he comes back and said, I gotta transfer you to the main hospital in the medical center, even though I don't think you're having a heart attack, but because all of these conditions that you have, you are a timing bomb. Remember that?
Yeah.
And I said, what?
Yeah, not a very nice.
It was not.
to
It was
put
not
it.
very good. I mean, it was, you know, a timing bomb, and so my anxiety just went, you know, to the roof at that time. And you know, later on, I found out that, you know, maybe he could use, you know, better words at that time. But you know, I think he was kind of, you know, I have to transfer you, but you cannot drive. We have to take you on an ambulance. So she drove behind the ambulance all the way to downtown. It took about, it was rush hour. It took about an hour, roughly about an hour. That's kind of what normal. But they had the sirens on and the lights on. But I was feeling well inside. He gave me, you know, Xanax, I think, or
No, something to
whatever he
relax
gave
him.
me. I was cool. So got to the hospital. They took me right away to the room and they say, listen, you're gonna rest here tonight. The doctor's gonna come see you tomorrow morning. So tomorrow morning came in. He, you know, his assistant came in and said, well, the doctor that is a specialist that was gonna see you, he's on vacation. He left this morning, whatever. But you're gonna see Dr. Agrilio, that is actually the chair of the cardiac center, and he specializes on your condition. So you're in very good hands. Doctor came in, look, hey, maybe they didn't look your CT scans. I'm gonna look at it again to make sure. So he went back and forth, and then they came back and said, no, it's 5.8. You have 100%. Oh no, actually, I forgot about the before that, right? I forgot about they're gonna try to have angioplasty to stent first before the root aorta. They try. So I had a surgery to try to stent, and it was 100%, so they couldn't get through it. So that's kind of when I missed that part really bad.
That's okay.
Boy. So anyways, so when they tried to stent, it didn't work. So that's when they decided to do the two surgeries in one shot. So when I was in the hospital, he came and said, we're gonna do it. No worries. We're gonna do a bypass. The bypass is, not a problem, easy. Yeah, right. Easy for him. Anyways, he wasn't worried about the bypass at all. And this one, what we're gonna do is we're gonna change this. We're gonna put a graph on top. He explained to me. The big question was about my valve, if he was gonna have to replace it or not. And he said, based on all the tests that he saw, there was a 95 to 98% chance that he would not need it to replace it, but he would only know when he opened. So I had to make a decision if I wanted a mechanic or a pig or I can't remember. We decided to go with the mechanic because he recommended, because I was on my late 40s. So he recommended that, and then we made a decision to go with that if it needed. So, anyways, when he came by, he said, Alex, you yesterday you only had a panic attack. We don't need to go in surgery today. I'm traveling tomorrow for a conference. Come back. Let's book this for next week. So let's book this for next week. We did. But I had to delay 2 more weeks because we had to do some dental. Yes. We had to do some dental. I had to do some dental for make sure that there was no infection. So we did that, delay a couple more weeks, and the anxiety kept going because of that. So on the day that we booked, we got there at 5 a.m. And they called me a day before. They called me a day before to let me know that my schedule would be delayed a little bit, but they were gonna try to still have my surgery because my doctor was gonna have a heart transplant before my surgery. And I said, oh, that's just
fantastic.
That's just great. He's gonna be tired when he reads me. And my brother-in-law, who's a cardiologist, he was here. He came to be with us during that time, and he said, "Well, you know," but he said that, you know, it wouldn't be a big deal because a heart transplant for him, it wouldn't be so stressful as mine would be. So he would not be tired. That's kind of what he told me. Maybe it was to calm me down. So anyway, so in there, I was the last one out of everybody there was there to go in. About 10 o'clock, they went in. So during this time, this is another point. During this time, again, I looked at online what it was going to look like, but at some point I said, you know, it's not doing me any favor. Keep looking what it's going to happen, because first of all, I cannot control what's going to happen. At this point, I can only focus what I can control. So I basically gave up trying to understand what was going to happen and just try to focus on what I could control. What I could control is eat well, keep, you know, calm, because I knew this was going to help me during the surgery and after, you know, keep as healthy as I could. And also I kept thinking about after, you know, when I wake up, what I'm going to do as soon as I open my eyes. Don't freak out, because you know it's going to be, you know, you're going to be intubated, you know, your hands might be tied. I had all this picture in my head going at that time, you know, because like I said, I was very healthy my entire life. This was my first time in the hospital, to be honest. So I never had anything, barely a cold. And all of a sudden I have an open heart surgery to have just surgeries at the same time. So anyways, so when I went in, I asked them to give me anesthesia before I go in because I would freak out. I did freak out when I tried to stand, when I saw that. When I went to do the angioplasty, doctor said it was going to be a simple thing. It's going to go in and it's simple. They didn't put me to sleep before I went in, and when I went into the room, it was literally, it was like a spaceship, right? And it freaked me out. So the second time I told, you knock me down before I go in. I don't want to see it, right? So woke up 6 hours later. This is going to be the funny part here. Woke up 6 hours later, I opened my eyes. The first thing I say, well, thank you, I woke up. The second thing I ask is, I couldn't say, but I wrote down on the thing, I said, don't ask. I look around the room, I don't see the wife. And I write down to the nurse, wife, and a question mark. And she said, oh, wife went home. And I said, what?
Okay, so let's stop here for a second. So let's explain what's happening in my side of the story, right? Because I'm pretty sure there is a lot of you guys that's gonna be in my side. So when you went in, and he was the last one to actually go in. I waited for a long time, and they have like a monitor with names of people, you know, they come in, they come out, they come in. So I see everybody going in, coming out, going in, coming out. And Alex was the last one. And I keep asking for, you know, please give me some news, what's going on. And they keep telling me, don't worry, everything's okay. But we've been there since like
5 a.m.
5 a.m. So it was a long day. I was very tired.
I was sleeping.
Yeah, he was sleeping. I was very, very tired. And I was waiting for the doctor when he finished to come out and tell me what's going on, right? So Alex was the last one. I was the last one in the waiting room with my sister and my brother-in-law. So we wait, and then finally the doctor come in, and he was brief, he was to the point, and no emotions, and that's okay. I think that's how they are, right? So he told me everything went well. We did not have to put a mechanic valve. So I was very thankful for that, and he's sleeping now and
Recovering.
in recovery room. Give me about 30 minutes and you can go and see him. So it's like, okay, so that's great. So we wait. And then after that time, the nurse told, no, we can go now. So you went there. So don't be alarmed when you see your loved one attached to the bed with the tube. I thought up, and they have so many stuff on Alex. Like they have a lot of monitors, they have all kind of stuff, and it freaked me out, really freaked me out. And I talked to the nurse, and they my brother-in-law told me, "Oh, go talk to him. He's gonna listen." That's not true, because I did talk to him for a long time, and I was like, "I'm here, everything went well." And he was down. He was, so because I was very tired, the nurse told me, I don't think it's a good, I don't think you should stay here tonight because there's a lot of people coming in and out, and you're not gonna be able to sleep, and it's better for you to go home and sleep and come back next morning, because that way, you know, you're gonna have rest and you're gonna come back and you're gonna be ready to be with him for the whole day. So I did took this advice and I did that, and I feel for him because I can understand that he wake up and he wanted to see me, and it was panicking for him in that way. But at the same time, I really need to rest for the next day to be there for him. So that's the whole story behind that.
It's funny because at that time I was like this. I was thinking, okay, I promised myself if I survive this, I would not get stressed for small things. This is a small thing. She's gonna be here tomorrow. Don't worry about it. But she's gonna hear for the rest of her life this one. You left me alone. But anyways, the first night was, it was not bad. Second night was not bad. I recovered really well. And the next morning they came in for me to start walking. I said, "What do you mean walk? I just had an open heart surgery yesterday afternoon. It's 11 o'clock in the morning. You want me to go walk?" No, I'm not walking. And he said, "Well, that was the best thing I ever did, is to start walking right away." They said, I was walking around the entire floor in the first day. So I was in the hospital for 6 days. I was supposed to be for 7. He released me a day early because I did really well. So that's the story of the surgery. And then came back home. I was recovering well, walking around the neighborhood, until one day she had to go to the Walmart with her sister and my daughter, and I was here by myself. And then I was feeling tired. I said, "I'm gonna go lay down in the bed." And then when I did, I almost fell. I had to hold, in the walls, and then I checked my blood pressure right away, and my heart rate was 125, and I was just laying down. So I talked to my brother-in-law. He said, "You probably have an AFib, so you need to go to the ER." So I went to the ER. This is about 4 or 5 days after we came back home. Went to the ER. I told them, "Call my doctor." They called him and he said, "Well, send him to the room. I'll be there tomorrow morning." Okay, so I went to the room, spent the night. Next morning, the doctor came in and he said, "Well, your blood pressure is very low." No, I don't think this was very low. I said, "Well, this is normal. It happens all the time. Don't freak out. We're gonna do a cardioversion, which is shocking, and we're gonna do it here in the room. There's no problem. We do this all the time. Blah 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 blah." And I said, "Okay, all right. So you have to do it." And then they come back. "Oh, we're gonna take you downstairs to do it. We feel more safe there." And so that scared me a little bit, but everything went well. I was back into the room in about an hour, and heart rate was back to normal. So they kept me there for a few more hours and they released me. So I went back home. A week later, AFib came back again. And then we went to the room, to the ER again. And this time my blood pressure was really low. And this was like a Wednesday night before Thanksgiving. So my blood pressure was really low. They called the doctor, they sent me to the room. They came back and say, well, we're gonna do a ablation. And what is ablation now? So basically it's go from your groin all the way to the heart. And I don't know, the way they describe it to me is they kind of burn the area that needs to be fixed. Like I say, I don't try to educate myself too much because it freaks me out. So I trusted my doctor. So, however, the doctor is Thanksgiving, so he's not going to be here until Monday. So you're going to spend the entire Thanksgiving here. We cannot let you go. So we were in the hospital for the entire weekend, Thanksgiving. Came back Monday. We went to do the ablation. They did. And I think it fixed, at that point, it did fix the AFib. And I was released in the next day or so. And I have been doing really good ever since. Of course, I'm summarizing, and there was a lot of things between that happened, and you know, uncertainties, unknown. But you know, what I like to share about this story is that, you know, in the spare of 2 months, I went to the surgery room 4 times, and after that, things went really well. I recovered really well after that. I actually was feeling well about 3 or 4 weeks after, and I remember going back to work first week. This was like my surgery was November 13. I was back to work on first week of January. If there is anything that you learn from this video today, I would say that it was too early to go back to work. I was eager to go back to work, you know, and my boss needed help, and I did go, but it was too early. If I ever had to do that again, hopefully not, I will probably take more time off, because the pressure from work and the anxiety from the condition, what everything that I went through, I was not ready to go to work. It actually, I would say, it took me a good 6 months to feel like I was back to normal. But you know, another few weeks off work, I would have benefits. So take that in consideration if you're going through that phase right now. But other than that, you know, I like to share that I am doing really well. I go visit my doctor every year, and we do a full checkup. So far, everything seems to be going well. I don't have any red flags at this point. Hopefully continue that way. Like I said, 3.5 years. 13 is my lucky day now, because I was born again on November 13th. And that's kind of my story. Anything else that you think you want to add?
Well, so, you know, like if you listen and you're like a wife or a husband,
Any family member.
Yeah, any family member, just like be patient with your own self, and don't stress too much about everything. And everything has a reason to happen. We just have to try to understand sometimes why stuff happens some ways, and have faith. We believe in God pretty much, and we know that there is a reason for everything to happen in life. We are grateful that we are here, and we're grateful that you can share that.
Yeah. One thing last thing that probably I want to share is the event that, when I woke up, she was not there. At the time, I did not understand how could she leave, right? But I let it go. I say I won't be mad about it. I have other things to worry about right now. But when we came back home and we talk about this many times, I can now understand, the stress level that she probably was outside the entire day, waiting for news, waiting for me. Like I said, I was sleeping, so I didn't see anything, but she was stressed out all day. So I can see that at 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, she was pretty much done. And I think at the end of the day, she did well, because next day she was there to spend the whole day with me. And if you're going through that too, I probably recommend anybody to do that, unless you have different circumstances, of course. Everybody goes through this in a different way. It's my understanding, there's no case that is the same. Everybody's different. But highly recommend you to take a break and rest. I was really well taken care in the hospital from all the hospital staff. I gotta give them a shout out. It was great. All the 4 times that I went to the Houston Methodist, the care that I had there was amazing. Cannot have nothing to say otherwise. And I think with that, thank you for listening, and God bless.